The architect told the street kid, "If you know so much, do it yourself." But what he did next. Michael Thompson was having the worst day of his career. The renowned architect had just discovered that a mistake in the structural calculations of his most important project could cost the construction company millions, and worse, his reputation was on the line. That's when he spotted the skinny boy, about 15 years old, sleeping under the awning of the construction site, using a tattered green military jacket as a blanket. Michael exploded in anger at the workers over the errors in the design, shouting so loudly that everyone stopped to stare. The boy woke up from the noise and timidly approached the board where the structural equations were written. "There's a mistake in that formula," the boy whispered, pointing to a specific line. Michael turned sharply, his eyes flashing with irritation. Seeing this dirty kid dare to question his work was the last straw. "Who do you think you are?" the architect yelled. "A stinking kid who doesn't even know where he'll sleep tonight has the nerve to criticize my work." The workers shifted uncomfortably at Michael's outburst. The boy lowered his head but didn't move. "Sorry, sir, it's just, I've been hanging around here a long time and I always look at the blueprints when they throw them away. I think I've learned a few things." "If you know so much," Michael said sarcastically, his voice dripping with disdain, "then do it yourself. Take this chalk and show me where the mistake is." What happened next left everyone speechless. The boy, whose name was Tyler Jenkins, took the chalk with trembling hands and got to work on the board. His movements were precise, calculated. In just a few minutes, he had not only identified the error, but corrected the entire sequence of calculations. "The main beam won't hold the weight of the upper slab at this angle," Tyler explained, his voice growing more confident. "If you change the angle to 45 degrees and use an H-beam instead of an I-beam, you'll save material and make it safer." Michael froze. It was correct. Not just correct, brilliant. The workers began murmuring among themselves, amazed by what they'd just witnessed. "This can't be possible," Michael muttered, checking the calculations. "How did you learn this?" "I've been around here since I was little," Tyler replied, shrugging. "My mum used to work at a site near here before she left. I've always liked numbers and drawings. When I see blueprints in the trash, I study them." The site secretary, Mrs. Betty, a 62-year-old woman who had worked in construction for decades, had discreetly recorded the whole scene on her phone. She knew talent when she saw it, and what she was witnessing was something special. Michael felt his pride cut like a knife. In front of his entire team, a street kid had corrected his work and even suggested an improvement. The humiliation was unbearable. "Anyone can get lucky once," Michael said, trying to regain control. "Let's see if you can solve something more complex." He quickly scribbled a materials resistance equation on the board, something that would normally take an experienced engineer at least an hour to solve. To his shock and growing frustration, Tyler studied the problem for a few minutes and got to work. Not only did he solve it, but he also proposed a design change that would save 30% of the required materials. The workers started calling him the genius kid, which only made Michael angrier. Just then, the owner of the construction company, Mr. Robert Anderson, unexpectedly arrived. A 70-year-old man who had built his empire from scratch. He watched as Tyler explained advanced engineering concepts to the workers, using technical terms few could master. "Who is this young man?" Robert asked, clearly impressed. Michael, desperate to maintain his credibility, lied straight to their faces. "He's my new intern, a very talented young man helping me with some revisions." Tyler looked at Michael in surprise, but something in the architect's expression made him stay silent. Maybe this was his first real chance to get off the streets. "Excellent," said Robert. "We need more young people like him in the company. What's your name, son?" "Tyler Jenkins, sir." "Keep it up, Tyler. Talent like yours shouldn't go to waste." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, continuing. After Robert left, Michael approached Tyler with a serious look. "Listen up, kid. You'll show up here every day at 7 in the morning and do exactly as I say. I don't want you talking about your situation to anyone. If anyone asks, you're my intern. Understood?" Tyler nodded vigorously. It was more than he'd ever dreamed of. In the following weeks, Tyler arrived at the construction site before everyone else. He studied the discarded blueprints and took notes on cardboard scraps he kept in an old backpack. He slept under the awning, showered at an outdoor faucet, and ate leftovers the workers sometimes left behind. Michael watched the boy with a mix of admiration and resentment. Tyler had a natural talent that Michael himself had needed years in college to develop. But he couldn't admit that to anyone, especially not himself. The truth began to surface when Michael's daughter, Emma, a 17-year-old, visited the site to bring her father lunch. She recognized Tyler immediately. "Tyler? Tyler Jenkins?" she exclaimed, surprised. Tyler looked up from the drawings he was analyzing and smiled shyly. "Hi, Em." "You two know each other?" Michael asked, puzzled. "He was in my class until 7th grade, Emma explained. "He was the best in math, but then, Dad, he lost his family." "What's he doing here?" Tyler felt his blood run cold. Emma didn't know he'd been lying about being her father's intern. "Emma," Michael said in a dangerously low voice, "you won't mention this to anyone. And if I find out you've been spreading nonsense, forget about the car I promised for your birthday." The girl looked confused between her father and Tyler, but the threat was clear. She knew how her father could be when crossed. Tyler heard the whole conversation and finally understood he was being used. Michael didn't see him as talent to nurture, but as a convenient tool to fix his problems. That night, alone under the awning, Tyler cried for the first time in months. He'd thought he'd finally found a chance, but it was just another illusion. Things got worse when a major mistake was found in the main blueprint. Michael, desperate to avoid blame, tried to pin it on Tyler in front of the whole team. "The intern messed with this part," Michael lied. "I warned them he was still inexperienced." But Tyler had learned to protect himself. With an old phone Mrs. Betty had lent him, he'd photographed all the original documents, including those with Michael's signature. "Sorry, Mr. Michael," Tyler said calmly, "but I have photos of the original blueprints. This mistake was already here when I arrived." The investor meeting turned chaotic when Tyler presented the evidence. The construction company's owner demanded answers, and Michael, cornered, finally revealed the truth. "He's just some homeless kid," Michael said scornfully. "I felt sorry for him and let him hang around." The revelation caused an uproar among those present. Robert was visibly shaken to discover he'd been deceived, but also impressed by Tyler's integrity. "So you let me believe he was your intern?" asked Robert, his voice heavy with disappointment. "I can explain." "No need," Robert interrupted. "Tyler, I want to speak with you privately." In the makeshift office at the construction site, Robert sat across from the boy. His expression was serious but not hostile. "Tell me your story, son, the real one." Tyler took a deep breath and told everything. How he'd lost his parents in an accident when he was 12. How he had no relatives to care for him. How he'd lived in shelters before running away to the streets. How he'd discovered his passion for math and engineering by watching city construction projects. "And how did you learn all this?" Robert asked. "I find books in the trash, sir. And when I see workers on site, I ask about their techniques. Most are kind to me. I've learned that if you want to understand how something works, you have to pay attention to the details." Robert fell silent for a long moment, processing everything he'd heard. "Tyler, do you have family? Anyone looking after you?" "No, sir. But I look after other boys living on the streets. We share whatever food we find and protect each other." An elderly investor named Mrs. Dorothy, who'd witnessed the entire exchange, was moved to tears. She approached Tyler with watery eyes. "How many boys are there?" "5, Mom. There's Josh, who's 13, Olivia's 14, Ethan's 12, and Ryan, who's only 9. I'm the oldest, so I find food and safe places to sleep." Tyler's confession about caring for the other children deeply affected everyone present. Even some of the construction workers who'd seen the scene had tears in their eyes. Michael tried to discredit Tyler once more. "You're all being swayed by a sob story. That doesn't change the fact he's just a boy with no formal education." But his own team began turning against him. Mrs. Betty, who'd worked with Michael for 3 years, spoke up for the first time. "Mr. Thompson, I've seen this boy solve problems that college-educated engineers couldn't. More importantly, I've seen his decency, something that's lacking in certain places around here." Michael's past came crashing down when his ex-wife Jennifer appeared at the site looking for Emma. She recognized Tyler immediately. "Tyler? My God, Tyler Jenkins? You know me, ma'am?" the boy asked, confused. "You're Melissa Jenkins's son. She was my best friend. When you lost your parents, she came to me desperate for help caring for you. I begged William to help us, but he said it wasn't our problem." The silence at the site was deafening. All eyes turned to Michael, who paled. "Jennifer, that's not exactly—" "It's exactly how it happened, William," she continued, her voice thick with emotion. "You said we had enough problems of our own and wouldn't get involved with charity cases. Melissa cried in my arms because she couldn't care for Tyler alone, and you stopped me from helping." Emma, who'd stayed quiet until then, exploded. "Dad, you did this? You knew about Tyler's situation and didn't help?" "Emma, things aren't that simple." "Yes, they are," she shouted. "You always taught me we should help those in need, but when you had the chance, you chose to be selfish." The public-family argument heightened the tension further. Tyler felt guilty for being at the center of so much conflict. "Please stop," he said. "I don't want to cause trouble for anyone. I can leave." "You're not going anywhere," Robert said firmly. "We're going to handle this properly." During a crucial inspection the following week, Tyler identified a serious structural flaw that everyone else had overlooked. The building's foundation had an issue that could cause severe cracks within months. "If you keep going with this foundation," Tyler explained, pointing to the pillars, "the building will start tilting within 6 months. The soil moisture wasn't properly accounted for." Michael, desperate to protect his reputation and seeing that Tyler was once again right, made a desperate offer. "Listen, kid, I've got $5,000 here. Take this money and disappear. Go to another city, start a new life. Just don't stay here to get in my way." Tyler looked at the money and then at Michael with an expression the architect had never seen before. It wasn't anger or despair. It was disappointment. "Mr. Thompson, I don't want your money. I just wanted a chance to study and help. I thought you had given me that opportunity, but now I see it was all a lie." "Tyler," Michael tried to argue, "you don't understand how the world works. You need to be practical." "I understand the world better than you think," Tyler replied. "I know what it's like to go hungry, sleep in the cold, be treated like trash. But I also know what it means to care for people who depend on me. You have everything, yet you can't even take care of your own daughter properly." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. Tyler's words struck a nerve. Michael knew his relationship with Emma had been strained since the divorce, and seeing how she defended Tyler made him question his own priorities. Mrs. Betty, who had secretly saved all the videos she'd recorded, decided to act. She launched an online campaign showcasing Tyler's talent and his story of perseverance. The video went viral quickly, reaching a retired engineering professor named William Parker. William, 68 years old, had dedicated 40 years of his life to teaching. When he saw Tyler solving complex problems in the videos, he knew immediately he was witnessing an exceptional talent. One rainy morning, William visited the construction site and found Tyler explaining physics principles to a group of curious workers. "Are you Tyler Jenkins?" William asked. "Yes, sir." "My name is William Parker. I was an engineering professor at the university for 40 years. I came here because I needed to see for myself what you're capable of." William spent 3 hours testing Tyler with increasingly complex problems. The young man not only solved them all, but demonstrated an intuitive grasp of concepts that even impressed the seasoned professor. "Tyler," William said finally, "you have a talent I see once in a decade. I'd like to be your mentor if you'll accept." "What does that mean?" "It means I'll teach you everything I know. I'll help you prepare for college entrance exams, and if you're willing, I'll ensure you get a full scholarship to the university." Tyler could hardly believe what he was hearing. It was exactly what he'd always dreamed of, but it seemed too good to be true. Michael, who had overheard the entire conversation, tried to intervene. "Professor, With all due respect, there are legal issues involved. The boy doesn't have proper documents, no legal guardian. Those issues can be resolved, William replied calmly. I have contacts who can help with the paperwork. As for legal guardianship, if necessary, I can apply for it myself. This statement left Michael even more desperate. He was losing control of the situation entirely. An unexpected twist came when old documents revealed that the land they were building on had legal complications. An inheritance dispute dating back to the 1980s had resurfaced, and the original heirs were questioning the legitimacy of the sale. Tyler, who knew the neighborhood's history intimately from having lived there for years, provided crucial information only the oldest residents were aware of. This land belonged to the Wilson family, Tyler explained. Mr. Gerald Wilson sold only half to the previous owner. The other half he left to his children, but he never formalized the sale. I know Mrs. Gladys, his daughter. She lives 3 blocks from here. With Tyler's help, they located Mrs. Gladys Wilson, an 83-year-old woman who had all the necessary documents to resolve the issue. She remembered the incomplete transaction perfectly and was willing to settle the matter. Mr. Robert Anderson was deeply grateful for Tyler's intervention, which saved the project from a legal nightmare that could have lasted years. How can I repay you for this, Tyler? You don't owe me anything, Tyler replied. I just want you to let Professor William help me study. At that moment, Mr. Anderson confronted Michael directly about his behavior. Michael, you lied to me about Tyler, tried to sabotage his work, and now we've learned you refused to help him in the past. I need to know, can I still trust you? The pressure on Michael intensified when his other projects began to be questioned. Some clients, after seeing the story online, started requesting independent reviews of his work. Emma discovered that Tyler kept a notebook made from discarded paper scraps, where he had sketched innovative designs for affordable housing. The drawings were detailed and showed creative solutions to maximize space and minimize costs. She showed the notebook to her mother, Jennifer, who worked as a social worker. Jennifer was impressed by the ideas and decided to start a movement to support Tyler and other young people in similar situations. These designs are brilliant, Jennifer said. They solve real problems in affordable housing that even experienced architects struggle with. Michael, seeing he was being isolated by everyone, including his own family, had a nervous breakdown during an important investor presentation. His hands shook, he broke into a cold sweat, and he couldn't finish his sentences. Tyler, despite everything he'd been through, was the only one who stepped forward to help. He brought Michael a glass of water and stayed by his side until he calmed down. "Why are you helping me?" Michael asked, confused. "Because everyone deserves to be treated with dignity," Tyler replied simply, "even when they don't treat others that way." In that moment of vulnerability, Michael finally confessed his fears and insecurities. He shared how he'd grown up poor on the outskirts of Chicago, how he'd struggled to pay for college by working 2 jobs, and how he lived in constant fear of losing everything he'd achieved. "When I saw you solving those problems," Michael said, his voice breaking, "I saw everything I could never be. You have a natural talent that took me years to develop. It scared me." Tyler shared his own story more deeply. He talked about the nights he'd stayed awake protecting other street kids from danger, about how splitting a piece of bread among 5 hungry children had taught him more about engineering than any book, because in scarcity, every resource must be used as efficiently as possible. "Mr. Michael," Tyler said, "talent isn't a competition. If I know something that can help, why keep it to myself? If you know something you can teach me, why not share it?" That conversation created an unexpected connection between the two. Michael realized he was repeating the humiliations he had suffered in his youth, perpetuating a cycle of destructive competition instead of collaboration. The transformation began when Michael made a decision that surprised everyone. Instead of continuing to fight against Tyler, he decided to give the boy a real chance. "Tyler," he said the next morning in front of the whole team, "I made serious mistakes with you. I let my pride and fear speak louder than my common sense. If you'll accept, I'd like us to work together for real, not as boss and intern, but as colleagues." Tyler was surprised but saw sincerity in Michael's eyes for the first time. What exactly are you proposing? That we rework this project, including your ideas, that you get real credit for your work, and that I pay for your studies until you get into college. The proposal caused a stir at the construction site. Mrs. Betty applauded, the bricklayers smiled, and even Mr. Robert Anderson seemed impressed by Michael's change of heart. Working together, Tyler and Michael completely redesigned the project. Tyler's innovations not only solved the structural problems, but transformed the building into a model of sustainability and efficiency. The structure included rainwater collection systems, solar panels integrated into the design, and a layout that maximized natural ventilation, drastically reducing energy costs. Tyler was officially hired as a technical assistant with a guaranteed scholarship and a salary that allowed him to rent a small apartment for himself and the other street kids he looked after. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. But the most significant transformation was yet to come. Tyler brought the other 4 kids to visit the site: Josh, Olivia, Ethan, and Ryan. Michael, initially resistant to the idea, ended up seeing potential in each of them. Josh had a natural talent for welding and finishing work. Olivia understood plumbing intuitively. Ethan was exceptional with measurements and precision. Ryan, the youngest, had a photographic memory for blueprints and schematics. They lived on the streets like me, Tyler explained to Michael. They learned to improvise, to solve problems with few resources. That's engineering in practice. Touched by Tyler's dedication to helping others, Michael decided to create a training program at the site, a pilot project to mentor at-risk youth. Emma volunteered to coordinate basic math and English classes. Jennifer handled social support, helping with documentation and psychological care. William Parker developed the technical curriculum. The construction company embraced the initiative when they saw the tangible results. The young trainees showed dedication and creativity that impressed everyone. Mr. Robert Anderson decided to make the program a permanent company policy. Tyler, he said in a meeting, you didn't just save this project. You taught us something about human potential that no business school could. Over the following months, the construction site became a real hands-on school. Tyler not only worked on the main project, but also taught the other boys everything he learned. Michael discovered that teaching and sharing knowledge was more rewarding than constant competition. His relationship with Emma improved significantly, and he began to realize that vulnerability wasn't a sign of weakness. Jennifer and Michael, working together on the social project, began rebuilding a respectful friendship. They didn't become husband and wife again, but they found a way to be better parents to Emma. Mrs. Dorothy, the elderly investor who had been moved by Tyler's story, decided to fund an expansion of the program. She had lost a grandson under tragic circumstances and saw in Tyler and the other boys a chance to honor his memory by doing something positive. My grandson would be your age today, she told Tyler. He loved building things. Seeing you all grow and learn makes me feel like he's still here in some way. William Parker developed a revolutionary teaching method, combining academic theory with immediate practical application. The young men didn't just memorize formulas, they understood how they applied to the real problems they faced on the construction site. Education shouldn't be a privilege, William often said. Talent exists everywhere, but opportunity doesn't. Our job is to create those opportunities. The story began gaining national attention. Journalists visited the site to document the project. Universities sent students to observe the methodology. Other construction companies started implementing similar programs. Tyler, initially shy about the spotlight, learned to use his visibility to advocate for other young people in similar situations. In interviews, he always emphasized that he wasn't unique. There were thousands of talented kids on the streets waiting for their chance. I was lucky to find people who believed in me, he'd say. But how many other Tylers are out there, sleeping under awnings, with dreams tucked away in recycled notebooks? Michael, transformed by the experience, began revising all his past projects. He implemented solutions Tyler had suggested, improving the efficiency and sustainability of ongoing constructions. Engineering isn't just about calculations, Michael admitted in a speech. It's about solving human problems. Tyler taught me that the best technology in the world means nothing if it doesn't improve people's lives. The day of the building's inauguration arrived. The project had become a national benchmark for sustainability and social inclusion. Officials, investors, journalists, and community members gathered for the ceremony. Tyler was invited to give a speech. He stepped onto the small stage set up on the building's ground floor, looked at the crowd, and felt an emotion he'd never experienced before. "A few months ago, I was sleeping under that awning right there," he began, pointing to the spot. "I thought my place in the world was to be invisible, to bother people as little as possible, to survive without disturbing anyone." The audience was completely silent. But I learned that we all have something to contribute. It doesn't matter where we come from, how we dress, or how many diplomas we have on the wall. What matters is being willing to learn, to teach, and to help each other. Tyler looked at Michael, who sat in the front row with tears in his eyes. This building wasn't just made of concrete and steel. It was built on second chances, on forgiveness, on people who decided to be better than they were before. He glanced at Josh, Olivia, Ethan, and Ryan, all wearing the company's new uniforms. "Every brick here represents someone who believed it's worth investing in people. Mrs. Betty, who filmed my first steps. Professor William, who taught me that knowledge is power when shared. Mrs. Dorothy, who turned her pain into hope for others." The emotion in Tyler's voice was contagious. Many in the audience were crying. Mr. Robert, who understood that a company isn't just about profit, it's about social impact. Emma and Mrs. Jennifer, who reminded me that family isn't just blood, it's a choice. And Mr. Michael. Tyler paused for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Mr. Michael taught me the most important lesson, that admitting mistakes isn't weakness, it's courage. That apologizing doesn't diminish anyone, it makes us stronger. That true success isn't about reaching the top alone, but bringing others up with you. Michael was visibly moved. He never imagined that one day he'd be praised by the boy he had once publicly humiliated. "That's why I want to announce something special today," Tyler continued. "With the support of the construction company and our partners, we're opening the Robert Anderson Technical Training Center, right here in our neighborhood." The audience erupted in applause. Mr. Robert Anderson was surprised and honored by the tribute. "But this center won't have my name on the signs," Tyler said, gesturing for everyone to quiet down. "It will bear the names of all the people who made this possible, because this story was never about just one person. It was about a community that chose to believe in the impossible." Tyler walked over to the board covered by a cloth and unveiled it. It was the center's symbol, a bridge connecting two shores with the words "Building Futures" written beneath. "This bridge represents the connection between different worlds," Tyler explained. "Between the streets and the university, between talent and opportunity, between dreams and reality." Michael rose from the audience and walked to the stage. Tyler greeted him with a smile. "Tyler," Michael said, his voice trembling, "when I told you, if you know so much, do it yourself, I was trying to humiliate you. But you did far more than I ever thought possible. You didn't just solve technical problems, you solved human problems." He turned to the crowd. "This young man taught me that the most important engineering isn't the kind that builds structures. It's the kind that builds bridges between people, the kind that builds second chances, the kind that builds a better world." Michael extended his hand to Tyler. "It would be an honor to work with you as a true partner." Tyler shook Michael's hand as applause rained down. Mrs. Betty captured the moment in a photo that would become iconic for the project. "Now," Tyler said, turning back to the crowd, "I want everyone to help me draw the symbol of our center." He picked up a piece of chalk and began sketching the bridge on the board. One by one, people from the audience stepped forward and added their own touches to the drawing. Michael was the second to join, followed by Emma, William, Mr. Anderson, and dozens of others. When they finished, the drawing was a collective work that perfectly symbolized the project, many hands building something greater than any single contribution. "This is the bridge we'll build together," Tyler said. A bridge that doesn't just connect two places but two ways of seeing the world. One that values degrees and another that values experience. One that has resources and another that has creativity. One that teaches and another that learns. 3 months later, the Technical Training Center opened its doors. Tyler had enrolled in college prep classes, but continued working part-time at the construction company while teaching at the center. Josh specialized in welding and had already secured a full-time job. Olivia discovered a passion for interior design and was also studying for college entrance exams. Ethan developed skills in topography and was assisting with measurements for new projects. Ryan, despite his young age, became William's assistant in technical drawing classes. Michael implemented a policy across all his projects. At least 20% of the team had to consist of young people from the training program. Other architects in the city began adopting similar practices. Mrs. Dorothy funded a permanent scholarship for at-risk youth. She visited the center weekly and became a motherly figure to many of the students. Jennifer expanded her social work and created a support network that went beyond technical training, offering psychological counseling, legal aid, and family assistance. William published a book on inclusive technical teaching methodology, which became a reference in universities across the country. He said that Tyler and the other young people had been his best teachers. Emma decided to study social architecture, inspired by the work she had witnessed. She wanted to design spaces that not only housed people, but also built communities. Robert transformed the construction company into a model of corporate social responsibility. The business grew significantly, but he always emphasized that the real growth had been human, not just financial. Mrs. Betty became the communication coordinator at the center, documenting the transformation stories of each young person. Her videos inspired hundreds of other initiatives across the country. A year after the opening, Tyler took the entrance exam for civil engineering at 3 universities. He was accepted to all of them with exceptional scores. He chose the public university, saying he wanted to give back to the state that had invested in the education that brought him there. "Public education gave me the foundation to get here," he said in his enrollment interview. "It's only fair that I use this education to serve the public too." Michael was invited to be his internship advisor, an irony they both appreciated. The man who had once tried to humiliate Tyler was now his biggest supporter. "Funny how life works," Michael remarked. "I thought I was teaching engineering, but I've learned more about construction this past year than in my entire career." "Construction of what?" Tyler asked, smiling. "Character, relationships, community, a better world." On the graduation day of the center's first class, Tyler gave another moving speech. This time he spoke not just as the young man who had been saved by circumstances, but as someone who had become an agent of change. "When I slept under that awning," he said, "I dreamed that one day I could build things. I never imagined the first thing I'd build would be hope." He looked at the audience filled with young people, families, educators, and business leaders. Every person who graduates here isn't just another professional in the job market. They're proof that talent exists everywhere, just waiting for someone to believe in them. Tyler pointed to the bridge design that now permanently decorated the center's main wall. "This bridge we designed together doesn't just connect two places, it connects two worlds. The world as it is and the world as it could be. And each of you is an engineer of that transformation." The audience rose in a standing ovation that lasted several minutes. Among the applause, you could see tears of pride, congratulatory hugs, and most of all, hope in the eyes of dozens of young people who now saw possibilities where there had once only been limitations. The end. And you? What did you think of this story of transformation and second chances? Tell us in the comments which part touched your heart the most. Do you think Tyler made the right decisions? And Michael, did he truly redeem himself after so much prejudice? We'd love to hear your honest thoughts. Leave a like if the story moved you, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that will touch your soul.